we need. Okay, so here we go. Okay, so good morning, everybody. Today is Thursday, December 3rd, 2020. The time is 9:03 a.m. Officially calling this meeting to order. Attending are Commissioners Duncan, Brooks, and Filios. And I'm going to ask Steve, would you please lead us in the pledge? Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Any potential conflicts of interest? No. None? Okay. Okay, then can we have a motion to add the ratification of the lease agreement with Kootenai Electric for 2451 Dakota Avenue, Hayden? The reason we need to do this is because our closing is set for next Wednesday. Documents have to be prepared for signing on that day. Motion, please.
I move that we approve the amended agenda, adding item number 3, ratification of lease agreement with Kootenai Electric.
I second the motion. Aye.
Aye.
Aye, and the motion is carried. Thank you, everyone. Okay, then, so let's move back up to item 1, potential action item, continued discussion of the transfer of AIN 246521. Director Callahan, please.
Thank you, Commissioners. Good morning, everyone. The reason this is once again back before you is I've learned new information, and that is that the property owner to the north, which is Jeff Withicum, I believe I pronounced that right, who is also on Zoom with us today, and if you're inclined, he can speak with you.
Sure.
But Jeff and I spoke at length. I also spoke with the pipeline company at length. I spoke with our county attorney over an issue, and the clear, to me now, new information is we, the staff, started off in error, assuming that we had to mirror the original 1950-something right-of-way grant in order to transfer this AIN to the pipeline company, to neighbors, and make the right-of-way stick. The error is that that right-of-way transfer is of record in the county's land records. I can pull it up and show it to you again if you want. It expressly says that the pipeline company has the right to do everything they need to do and to keep structures off of it. Pat agrees that that much is valid, and that so we didn't need to have that whole idea of encumbering the deed that we would transfer to the property owner. Set that aside. Fast forward, you remember we talked about the notion of just giving it to the pipeline company. We all agreed that made some common sense for reasons I won't go over again.
Yep.
You remember.
Yep.
But here's the new information. Jeff, the owner to the north, which is on this aerial photo to your right, this property just north of the area highlighted in green, Jeff Withacombe, is concerned that if we grant this to the pipeline company, it puts him in a worse position. I don't believe that's true, but I'll circle back around to that in a moment. I think in this case, since we don't have a horse in this race, we merely inherited this property because delinquencies and tax sales. And the pipeline company has the ability to do everything they need to do under this current right-of-way recorded with land in the land records. My suggestion is you reconsider, and the pipeline company's fine with this, I've talked with them, giving this back to the neighbors on either side, half to the property to the south, which is Mr. Forsberg, half to the property to the north, which is Jeff, all because that mirrors what has already been done. If you look to the properties to the southeast, it's hard for you to see, but I'll highlight. There's a property line right here, which is this person's land.
Yes.
And they've actually absorbed what used to be part of the pipeline in their property. Similarly, I checked with the assessor's records, and this parcel is owned by this owner. So what I just suggested to you already has precedent. It would, in my view, do an important political thing, and I mean political in the Oxford Dictionary sense of the word, meaning using good jurisprudence and good decision-making.
Okay.
If we grant it to either side of these owners out there, it takes it back to what it used to be, and we're out of the picture, and you haven't made your constituents mad.
Okay.
So that's my recommendation. The pipeline company can still do everything they want to do. These people end up with what they want, and we are out of the picture. Unless you have questions, or if you'd like to ask Mr. Withacombe to jump in, I think I've said everything I need to say on this.
And then Mr. Forsberg had already submitted a bid.
Right.
Right.
And my only suggestion is you split it in half to
Yep.
him, half to the neighbor to the...
I'm in favor of that.
I am too. Jeff, did you want to comment while we have you on the phone? Oh, I guess he's not on.
Well, bear with me a second. There
Unless
might
he's
be...
on Zoom.
There's Jeff there.
Yeah, it says it right there. Let me stop sharing so I can get to this.
Yeah, okay, go ahead. Is it Whitcomb?
I think so, but I'm not entirely sure. I'm having a problem with our speaker system. Let me test something. Oh.
There we go.
There it is. So that much is working. Jeff, can you, there you are. Go ahead, you have the floor.
Yeah, that sounds great. That's what David and I had talked about before, or at least he said he was going to bring up today, and yes, I would be in favor of that.
Okay, sounds good.
And I think we can assume Mr. Forsberg would too.
Fair enough. Motion.
Well, I have one.
Yeah, Commissioners, just a second.
Go ahead, Pat.
I would just interject that if you're when we do this, that it be specifically made subject to an easement in favor of the pipeline company for their
Okay.
need.
May
I
I?
didn't hear that.
So I think that would take care of that issue in this case.
Okay.
And then we can go ahead and give back half to each adjacent property owner.
Okay. Go ahead, David.
Pat, why is that necessary, giving the right-of-way of record?
Because that way, in the chain of title, it doesn't look like that right-of-way was taken. Right-of-way right was taken away from them.
So it doesn't change anything, it just reinforces what is already there?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I think Jeff...
And like I said, it leaves no doubt in the chain of title that the pipeline company retains its rights under that right-of-way agreement.
And we would write that easement into the deed that we would transfer.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, I guess Jeff, was Jeff able to hear Pat?
I'm not sure. Jeff, do you need us to go over that again?
I could not hear that.
Go ahead, David.
Our legal counsel has suggested that we write in the terms, pardon me, someone's in the background, that we write in the same terms that are already in the right-of-way grant into an easement that we would include in the deed in transferring land to you and Mr. Forsberg. So this, basically, we're reinforcing what's already of record. And the reason Pat recommends that is if we don't do that, there's the potential that we've, in the chain of title, that we've lost the right-of-way agreement.
When I talked to a land lawyer, he said that wouldn't be the case. I mean, it's already filed, it's a legal record with the county, you know, for the easement, slash right-of-way. I guess I don't understand what additional is going to be written into that.
It would be nothing additional. It'd be a reinforcement of exactly what's already there.
A restatement.
A restatement, as Commissioner Brooks says.
Okay, well, I saw the thing from, when Forsberg's tried to buy it, that they had verbiage in there basically saying that they needed to remove their,
Structures? The structures?
Their carport. And that's why Forsberg's didn't proceed with, purchasing, or acquiring that property, which was additional to, I mean, I have no, that was filed, because that's the same document that is with my, when I did my closing, that's filed, through the title company with the county. So I guess I want to know, are they putting other constraints or, action items that have to be done by myself and Forsberg's, for the transfer? Or is it exactly the same verbiage as what's recorded right now?
I'll ask our legal counsel to respond, because this is a legal matter, not a planning one. But my view is that we are reinforcing or just reenacting what's already there. If there's any new language, it would be plain English for the purpose of plain understanding. Pat, would you jump in?
Yeah. Like I said before, you know, I don't know how else to explain it, but, you know, chain of title is very important. And if there's, you know, a question in the chain of title, of course, that affects the value and marketability of property. And, you know, as far, you know, it doesn't grant the pipeline company any greater rights than it already has, but it also ensures that the property owners don't try to assert greater rights than they have. You know, if it means having to remove structures or trees or a fence so the pipeline company can get to their pipeline, well, that might have to happen. But, you know, I don't know the particulars of that. You know, only the pipeline company would be able to competently answer that. But they have to get to their pipeline. Their easement or right-of-way cannot be materially interfered with regardless. And so, you know, I think that right needs to be crystal clear in these deeds, granting the property back to the property owners from the county.
Jeff, does that answer your concern?
No, not really, but, you know, if what you're saying is that you're not changing, what's already there and adding anything else, then that's fine.
Yes, that's where we're headed.
Precisely.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Are we good then?
so.
Motion?
Yeah.
I move that we approve the splitting and deed writing to transfer AIN 246521 to adjacent property owners.
I second the motion. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Pat, are you okay with that? Because I thought you
Yeah.
said you wanted a clause inserted.
But I think this is step one. I think he's got to do all the paperwork, and that's
Oh.
where the clause will be inserted, and then
And
we'll
the
go
deeds
through
will come back, yeah,
Okay, good enough. Okay.
yeah, the deeds will come back to you to approve once they're done.
Got it. Okay, good. We're okay. Okay, so you got us all. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just reverse the order because we've each had a chance to review it. Pat, our attorney, has had a chance to review it. Pat, you're good, as is Brent over at KEC, is that correct?
Yes. Yeah, we are in full agreement. I got confirmation of that yesterday
Okay,
or Tuesday. But yeah, we're ready to go.
okay.
And so, Pat, I just have a question. It says ratification of lease agreement. Isn't this just original signature for the lease agreement?
Yeah, I was a little surprised to see that language in the agenda also. You know, that is what it is, but I think nevertheless, I think it's clear enough. I think you can go ahead and even though technically you're not ratifying a previous action, I think you can go ahead and
Yes.
approve the lease and execution at or prior to closing.
Okay.
Okay, fair enough. I know that was my insertion. Sorry, Pat, I didn't go to law school.
No,
Okay.
that's okay. Like I said, I think the agenda's sufficiently
Okay,
clear.
good.
We can take action.
Okay, good then. Are we ready for motion?
Yeah. I move that we execute the lease agreement with Kootenai Electric for 2451 West Dakota Avenue, Hayden, to be signed at closing.
I second the motion. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Okay, moving back up to item number 2. Continued discussion of whether to pave a portion of the roadway in the 2500 block of North 16th Street, parcel AIN number 101258 in Coeur d'Alene, potential action item. Director Callahan.
Commissioners, you'll recall this is the land where we've owned it for 20 years. There's lots of potholes. Nancy happens to live next to it. And where we landed was I was going to check with Eric Shanley, the super, for this particular highway district, even though the land's not literally in his district. His district encompasses this area, and ask Eric his advice on what it would cost to bring this up to standard. And he's responded. It's on the screen. I'll tell you the nut of it is that, I should back up and say Eric always does things first class, so this would be meeting his standard if we paved it in a way that he would expect a highway district road to be paved, or a gravel road that he would expect to last some considerable time. So this is beyond the Cadillac version, one might say the Lamborghini.
Now, Nancy does not actually live on that, right?
Oh, my mistake.
She owns some properties.
She's
She
near
owns
it.
property, yeah, okay.
Okay. I just wanted to remind you of the case.
Yep.
Thanks
Got
for
it.
the clarity.
Oh, yeah, I'm reminded.
So in this particular case, where Eric landed is that he would work with us. We could actually pay monies. His crew would go out and bid and do and make the work happen. But it's real money. To pave it and get it properly drained, it's $65 grand. And part of that's because it doesn't drain properly right now. So they've got to create a good grading plan, dig out all the existing stuff, repair, replace, build like a new project.
It's a reconstruction.
So it's reconstruction, thank you. The fallback, if it was just gravel, he thinks you could get by for roughly $50,000. Again, that's a high-end solution, but a good one if you want to go that way. I think this is a way that, if you think of it in new subdivision terms, this is what a new subdivision gets when you build roads to highway district standards. An alternative could be, call 3 companies. Sean could probably help and say, what would it cost us to backfill, roll, and call it good. guessing that's a lot less, but I don't know.
So David, how does this differ from any other property that we own or any other roads that are in our possession?
We never accepted this as a right-of-way. You know, this would, if we had, it would have been turned over to the highway district back in the day, when the highway districts were created. We've inherited this piece like we do all AINs because there was either a surveying bust, someone didn't pay taxes, or a combination of those things. So we've owned this, as I recall, for some 20 years and haven't done any maintenance on it all this time. My memory is that Pat thinks there's some liability there, but you'd have to ask him how much and what we do with that. I'm really just fulfilling your concern about what would it cost us to do a reconstruction of this. Now you have the numbers.
Does this set a dangerous precedent?
I would hesitate to say dangerous because I don't know that we have a lot of properties like this.
I see, okay.
I think the only precedent it might set would be in this exact instance where we basically, obtain a portion of a private road right of way through the tax deed process. This is the first time I know of. Well, this is the first time I've known that I know of that this has happened, and when the highway district hasn't been willing to accept it, which I think, as David said, has typically been the case. We just turn the we just deed the road right of way over to the highway district, and everybody's happy.
What's our liability here, Pat? If we don't do it?
I would say more than zero, but probably fairly low. I mean, I just looked back on the, I went into Casey Earth, and it showed that it's the ownership is Kootenai County TDOO. So it was taken for tax deed back in 2000, and we've gone 20 years without having a claim. That's not to say they'll never happen, but I do think it's an indicator that the chances of that are relatively low.
Okay. Steve, did you want to speak to this? Or Lori, either?
I think Lori might have some history. You gotta be in a microphone. Sorry.
Pull it down to you.
Pull it down, Lori, please. There you go.
Lori Thomas for the record. Thank you, Commissioners. I have been in the Treasurer's Office for 20 years, and this item came up for me yesterday, and I apologize for the late participation. And to Pat's extent, the county, to my knowledge, has not ever put money into a tax deeded parcel. We had a legal opinion years ago that addressed the participation of the liability the county took on, albeit Pat and I seem to remember it a smidge different, and I didn't get my hands on it, that happened within the period of when we took the tax deed to the time of the sale. The subsequent conversation that I had was entirely the period. And the goal with a tax deeded parcel is that if it did not sell at sale, that the county would be actively looking to find an adjacent property owner to give that property to, and Director Callahan and Pat have worked on those processes because those have come through in the past several years pretty aggressive. And I think that I would ask that the county take a step back before we set a precedence of putting either $50,000 or $65,000 into a tax deeded parcel, and maybe reach out to these adjacent property owners and particularly get them to take on the ownership for this. I was asked about the amount of what is owing on this property for taxes. And I don't recall all of the instances on this, but we did take a payment last year for $1,160 in taxes. There was 2 board resolutions that were done that impacted this parcel. One was 2020-01 that canceled the 2019 tax late charge and interest, saying that the county is exempt, but these parcels are not treated as exempt from the assessor's office, because I've got the 2020 bill. These are treated differently. And then there was another secondary board resolution, 2019-54, that canceled the 2006 to 2018 tax late charge and interest. So I did not get a chance to pull those resolutions to see exactly what was the impetus behind them, but I would like to just offer that for the board's consideration.
Okay.
Questions?
I'm sure there's going to be some later.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
questions for Lori?
Yeah, I think what, Lori's history that she went through is helpful on that. I think part of the problem here too is not only does the highway district not want it, the city of Coeur d'Alene doesn't want it because it's not in their city limits, although it is adjacent to their city limits.
Correct.
And the property owners appear not to want it either. So, the ideal solution, other than granting the highway district, would be to get all the property owners that use 16th Street to access their property to enter into a road maintenance agreement and transfer the property to those property owners. We have, as Lori indicated, we have done that several times in the past. But in those cases, either somebody bid on the right of way, or the property owners agreed to take it. So I don't know. It's kind of a conundrum when the property owners don't indicate that they don't want to assume ownership and control of the property.
Okay, so we've got a couple of folks here. Brenda, did you wish to speak? No?
Yeah,
come
sorry.
Give us your full name and address, please, Brenda.
Brenda Listman, and I live at 2511 North 16th Street. The only thing about being responsible for the street is the liability. Okay, so my truck already needs a front-end alignment because of the big pothole right in 15th and 16th Street. Best. So if somebody took responsibility for this parcel, then, who's going to pay for, whatever happens?
So typically a road maintenance agreement, we had handshake one at my house, and every year we put in $200, and then the guys who knew what they were doing went out and bought the material and did the work.
Okay.
So Pat's willing to draft one of these for the property owners to look at and consider and see if it would be that way. I also got a list of contractors who worked for the county who did like parking lot repair and has done some asphalt work. So it might be one of those issues where it wouldn't be that much just to get it so you're not having the vehicle issues.
So the way it's been, I've been in this house for 30 years, and right now I have a pile of gravel, so to speak, road base at the end of the road in front of my house. And myself and the neighbor right directly across the street, we are the ones that usually maintain the street. In fact, Ken was out there last week with his shovel and wheelbarrow. So some of the potholes get real deep. But anyhow, we have been maintaining this road for the last 30 years. We purchased the road base, and, we take turns buying it and stuff. So we've already done that, or been doing that, as far as maintaining the road. But there's It's pretty much all dirt right now. There's no asphalt left. That's it.
Any questions for Brenda? Thank you. Nancy, did you wish to speak?
Do you need my name and address since I'm here as a resident?
Yeah, go ahead.
My name is Nancy Pluff, and my address is 778 West Genachek Loop in Post Falls. But I do own 2 duplexes on North 16th Street. And I would not be opposed to entering into a road maintenance agreement if the road were in usable condition. But 20 years of neglect and expecting us to take that on, I don't think that that's fair.
Oh, bullshit.
Oh, sorry, Pat, you need to mute yourself.
Okay, I will.
He joins Dan Matos now. Okay, never mind. I'm sorry.
So it's the condition of the road to expect us, we did get, my husband and I did get an estimate to just pave the road. It was $26,000. To expect us to take on that liability and that monetary cost after 20 years of neglect of the city, I think is a bit ridiculous for us. And I don't know of any other parcels in the county of roadway that the county owns that this would set precedents for. We do own alleyways. We own some easements on roadways. We own walkways and some other things, but no actual street that I'm aware of. So I don't think this would set precedents at all. And it is the county's property, and the property owners may not have known that, which is why the county has never had a claim against it. But I can tell you that my tenants in those duplexes, they do know that now. And they will be filing claims for their popped tires or their dented rims and their alignments. They will be, if the county chooses not to maintain that road, they will be filing claims. And I would encourage the other residents of that street to do so as well.
Wow. This is just a little much. If the county if you had not discovered that the county owned this and that this was owned by your neighbor, would you be having the same argument with them? Would you be pounding on their door?
I absolutely would.
So to me, this is just out of line. I'm sorry. This is not a situation where I'm going to agree to spend taxpayer dollars to benefit property owners. This came to us by tax deed, and that's unfortunate. And I've appreciated your work trying to get all these parcels back on the tax rolls. I mean, I think that's very important. But I think in this situation, when you live in the country, and because it's unincorporated, it can be considered country because the city refuses to annex. The Lakes Highway District refuses to do that. It is a matter of the local property owners, just like Brenda's taken responsibility all these years to maintain it to a level where they can use it. And I do understand the thought of having to put a lot of money into it. That's not anything that anybody would have expected. So to me, the only option is get a road maintenance agreement, have the owners go, and I think that there's going to be more options than just $26,000 worth of paving. I think that, you know, the list that I got from Greg Manley, I'm even willing to make some phone calls on it, but this is not something that I can spend taxpayer dollars on because it's not a situation where this is a county-owned road. Okay, a right-of-way is something that's somebody legally owns. I mean, Pat maybe can jump in here, but for a county employee, for you to sit here and encourage people to bring lawsuits against the county, that's really upsetting to me. And I do understand living on a difficult road because there's times where I don't get to drive my car because my car can't get down my neighbor's property, the easement that they have given us. And until I go out and personally fix it and spend money to do that, I don't get to drive my car on the road. I mean, I literally get stuck. And so I do understand your part of it, but I don't think that it's a bigger picture than the county neglecting owning a road, because that's not what's happening here.
It's not a right-of-way. It is literally a parcel owned by the county that has gone in disrepair. It's not a regular road. It is literally a piece of property that is owned by the county and has been owned by the county and neglected by the county for 20 years.
See, I guess I just disagree with that view of it, of being, because we have a bunch of these parcels that the county doesn't do anything to maintain. I would be curious as to the assessor and the treasurer getting together and giving us a little bit of history with this particular parcel, especially with us canceling the taxes and stuff, because I don't remember having, I remember now that you say that, because I remember a list coming before us, but I'd just be more curious as to what the thought process was behind that, because
I think that was a mistake, to be perfectly honest.
Okay.
I think it was included in the county-owned properties, and that was a mistake. We should not have canceled those taxes.
Okay, I think Bill wants to speak. Go right ahead, Bill.
Yeah, number one, if we owned, just maybe a rhetorical question, but if we owned a piece of property with a battered, nasty-looking house on it that was in fact an attractive nuisance for kids to get in there and play, would we leave it standing, or would we knock it down? I think we'd knock it down. I think we better knock it down.
From the liability perspective.
Yeah, and
Okay.
the other thing is, quite honestly, I don't think this is an unsolvable, and I would be happy to get together with all the property owners, if the board's okay with that, and see if we can't come to some solution. And without being personal. Don't sue me.
I won't. Promise.
How many property owners?
5. Well, there's 5 parcels. I own 2 of them, so there are 4 technical property
4 owners, 5 parcels.
But I'd be happy to do that and spend as much time as the property owners would like to, and anything that we come up with would have to, of course, come before the board and be cleared by legal and da.
And Pat said he's willing to draft a road agreement
Yeah,
for the
but
owners.
that's the way it went.
Yep. Steve, did you want to speak? Yeah, go right ahead.
I see this more black and white, and I would encourage you to go down the path that you've suggested, Bill.
I'm sorry.
I would encourage you to go down the path that you've suggested and see if you can get agreement. But as treasurer, I am strongly opposed of spending any money to maintain this property, so much so that I think it would be bordering on inappropriate to pay any costs associated with maintaining this property. I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Steve. Yes, David, please.
Commissioners, as this goes on, the one thing I can add is that, and Pat can back me up, is that we have, as a county, have never accepted this as right-of-way or easement. It's just a parcel of land. And in that way, it's no different than if any property owner lost the water source on their property and expected us to fix it. To me, there's not a connection there. So I'm more in Steve's camp, with the exception that I believe there's no insurmountable problem as long as reasonable minds get together and dialogue. So I would applaud your approach to just discuss it.
Okay. Lori, did you want to say anything further? Brenda? Nancy? I don't know that we need a formal motion here.
I only set it up as an action item in case you wanted to.
No, I know, and that's fine. What do you think? Go with the have Pat, I don't want to volunteer you here, but you might already have done so. Drafting a road maintenance agreement?
Yeah, that's fine. I can confirm, what Leslie said about that. I did talk to her yesterday, where she shared her concerns about this. And then perhaps, and then I hear that Bill volunteered to maybe, work with the property owners and see if we can't get some reasonable solution in mind. And I think that would be very helpful as well, especially if there is a road maintenance agreement in hand at the time.
Well, I wouldn't worry about that. First I'd talk, and then we'd maybe put it down to writing, because if we get an MOU, we're gonna be arguing about the MOU. I want some agreement in principle, what we're gonna do, and then say to the attorneys, here, write it up, once the board agrees that that's appropriate.
And that's perfectly fine too. Probably a better approach, to be honest.
Yeah.
Leslie?
Bill, are you intending to keep the county involved in this parcel, or are you trying to get the parcel to the property owner?
I have no preconceived notions, and I think that's part of the problem we have, is everybody's got a preconceived notion. I built 2 miles of major road in the middle of Alaska. Look on Google Earth on Pedro Bay, you can see it. And so I know something about what it takes to build a road and not pave it, not put in gutters, not put in sewers, but something that is drivable and safe. So we can talk.
Okay, then. So why don't we do that? So, Bill, you're going to work with the property owners, come up with a common understanding, and then
Something, yeah.
have Pat draft a
Yeah, and I'll get,
road
if
maintenance
it
agreement.
takes get together on weekends, we'll do that.
All right, fair enough. Anything else? Public comment?
I have public comment.
Yeah, go.
I think everyone should get a course in how to use microphones and what to do when you call in. This is something that we're all kind of learning by the seat of our pants. But we've got procedures for everything else. When you call in, and I'm one, I call in a lot, I mute the phone. Okay? When I stand up to the microphone, I speak in the microphone. And we need that, given the new age we're in. I'm sorry, it's inconvenient and it's different from what we've always done. But we need to be aware.
That's true. Good point. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, then. 9:45, meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.